this evening for a few moments. Let's share a little randomly on the subject of our work and our attitudes towards work, how we can spiritualize them. And I've been sharing a little from the New Path, and there's something that I would like to share today, that something that Master said. He told the disciples one day that work is just as good as meditation when you work for God. But more often, he says, with only work, the mind becomes restless and you forget God. I know that many of us can identify with the mind becoming restless. And we begin to work for work's sake. It's sort of like when I can say this for myself, that sometimes when I've done everything that needs to be done, then the mind just keeps going in a restless way. And I find other things to do. I find other things that I never thought of before. And it keeps the mind engaged on that conscious, mental, mundane level. And we need to take breaks from that to balance work with meditation and spiritualize our work. And Swamiji said, Master taught us not only to offer our work moment by moment to God, but also to see God acting through us as the real doer. I slept, he said once, and dreamt I was working. I woke up and saw God was working. And there's a couple of points here that bear contemplation. Offer our work moment by moment to God. And how can we do that more? And it's for each one of us to experiment. How can we offer our work to God more and more, and also more and more often? How can we live in that presence more often during our workday? I would always have in front of me on my desk a photo of Yogananda Ji, the last smile. And I would try to refer to it often. And certainly when I was making phone calls, sending messages, I would try to gaze at that photo and try to draw on Master's consciousness and share that consciousness with the person I was speaking with or writing to. And pray to Master if there was any question, or just if I was feeling I needed some guidance, what to say to this person, how to express it best, or here's a problem, and please show me what the answer is. And this can be very helpful. And then also find a way, if you feel this is helpful, find a way to take breaks during the day. Maybe it's to remind yourself of God's presence and to remove yourself from that mental busyness that keeps us going so often. You can set And this works for different people in different ways. You can set an alarm on your laptop or on your phone. Perhaps it's once an hour. If that's too often, perhaps once every 2 hours. Of when that alarm goes, you know that it's time to close your eyes, practice Hong Sa for 2 or 3 minutes, or again gaze into the photo of the Guru, draw his consciousness, maybe a moment of introspection. What has happened in the last hour, the last 2 hours? Let me offer everything that happened at the feet of the Guru, and let me feel his presence. And let me pray that I can feel his presence more often in the upcoming hour. And do this repeatedly. Maybe you don't trust yourself to do it every day from now on. Take a practice like this and do it for 1 day. Tell yourself you'll do it for every day for a week. Find a way that works for you, because it's the nature of the mind to go into complexity, more and more complexity. And the more we go into that mental agitation, the more we're drawn to it, more and more. So we simply need to reverse that direction, give it a balance of balancing the conscious mind with the superconscious. Balance mental energy with heart energy, with devotion. Offering ourselves to God and Guru. Being grateful for the gifts they gave us in the last hour, and offer ourselves even more deeply for the upcoming hour. Maybe it's ways also during your lunch break, maybe you can practice meditation for 15, 20, 30 minutes before you take your lunch. Maybe you can practice the superconscious living or the energization exercises. If you're doing the energization once a day, maybe you can do it twice a day. At tea break in the afternoon, energize instead and see how your day changes. We never stop learning these simple lessons, these simple techniques that we share with our beginning meditation students work just as well for us, and very often they're just what we need to be in the moment and to offer ourselves more completely. Now, Swamiji writes that intensity is everything, intensity of awareness. But that intensity is not a mental strain. It need not be a mental strain. If we practice in this way of drawing on God and Guru to guide us more and more consciously, and perhaps for you it means consciously relaxing. Every hour, maybe it means tensing and relaxing the body, doing deep double breaths. What works for you? Maybe it's a more conscious physical and mental relaxation. Then you're ready to attune yourself, to offer yourself in devotion. And we need to find balance. Swamiji would, when he worked in a creative way, he would work extremely hard. He would work also for long hours, sometimes all night long. But then when a project was finished, he could mentally put it aside completely forget it, and be in the moment. Take a take a complete mental break. Perhaps he had worked so intensely he couldn't suddenly, go into meditation, but he could do something that took his mind off of his work. He could read a funny story. If it was a long project, he could, spend longer. He would need to spend longer taking a break. Maybe it was just a lovely meal with friends, or an evening, or maybe it was several days of vacation, to completely make that mental break, ready to start over again, and ready to separate ourselves from the restless mind. And so Swamiji would often do this. And as I say, maybe it was dinner or taking a walk or watching a movie, and he would tend to like not movies that were overly serious, but ones that were very light, that were funny. And often he would watch cartoons that were funny, and very old movies that were very simple, but had an uplifting message. So Master here tells us two things: offer our work moment by moment to God. And then he also says to see God acting through us as the real doer. He said, I slept and dreamt I was working. I woke up and saw that God was working through me, he said, and that the best prayer is, I will, I will reason, I will act, but God, you guide my reason, will, and activity to the right path in everything, to feel that God is acting through us, that we're never alone. Whatever difficult meeting or conversation or assignment we have, we're doing it together with Guruji, always by our side. And to make that conscious effort, reminding ourselves consciously. And I mentioned about Swamiji taking a few days off or taking a vacation, and I had the blessing of being on several of those vacations with him. And it was very interesting to see that he, even in such a situation, it's not like he would completely collapse, like let his mind go into subconscious. Rather, he would see the most positive. He would see beauty in whatever was around him, whether it was a beautiful garden or another aspect of nature. And he would sort of see where there is inspiration that he could gather from that, and creativity. And also he would see the best in the people around him, and even strangers, and give them love and give them energy, consciously be a channel. And he didn't have to work at this. This was not work, this was relaxation. I remember once he went to Salzburg, the town where Mozart was born, and there one evening there was they had a special dinner, a group dinner, and in between each course of the dinner, they would play some music of Mozart. And Swamiji was inspired. What a wonderful way to share inspiration. And he he came home and he thought, well, now we could do something similar too. Let's for a special event, let's have a lovely dinner. And then in between, the soup course and the main course, or the appetizers and the soup course, or the main course and the dessert, let's have a group of singers or musicians. And so everybody would pause, enjoy the music, and then go back to their meal. And it's sort of like through something very physical, like enjoying a meal, they also get inspired through inspiring music. And this sort of creativity would come to Swamiji, in the most simple of circumstances, just like when he was on a vacation, he would be very often inspired in these ways. And so this is a lesson for us to look for the beauty, to be open to inspiration, even when it's sort of like we're not working, we're just being. Also, Master would tell Swamiji and the other teachers that he had, the other acharyas that he had trained, to consciously be a channel, consciously draw on the energy of the Guru and ask that energy flow through them to their audience, and that it's really the Guru's vibration that is flowing through. And so much more for any teacher, spiritual teacher, much more important than the facts that we're relating, that important information or knowledge, is the vibration. In a sense, it's our own spiritual vibration that we have tuned into over years of meditating. But more than anything, we want to open ourselves to be channels, to share the vibration of God and of Guru. Swamiji writes, Master instructed me to pray to God and our Gurus before every lecture and ask them to use me as their instrument, that I might express what they wanted me to say. And this applies not just for teachers, but for all of us. In any situation where we're having to speak to others, to really ask and pray to God and Guru to to speak through you, to ask them what do they want to say to this person in this circumstance. And then another interesting aspect of this is for us not to seek experiences in our meditation, particularly. It's the nature of the mind also to acquire. It's the nature of the senses to want more. If I earn a little money in the stock market, I want to earn more. If I taste one taste of a chocolate cake, I want to eat more. When a friend of mine told me the story of how, as a young man, he had the habit of eating a lot of ice cream, and that he would often, buy a half-liter of ice cream and very easily eat the whole thing at once. Admittedly, he was a young man and he can get away with this. But he thought, what a silly habit and a bad habit. I want to be rid of this. And so he had a thought. While he was sitting down in front of his ice cream, he didn't try to stop himself, but he had a photo of Guruji in front of him. And while he watched the photo, he would eat his ice cream. And just after a few bitefuls, he thought, this is really silly. And he just couldn't bring himself to eat more, sort of knowing that the Guru was sharing this with him, that he wasn't judging him, but it's sort of like just by knowing and feeling the Guru there, he realized that he didn't need this habit, he didn't need this urge, and that it was much more important to attune himself to the Guru,